Hello,
Hi.
everyone. Welcome. Sorry we're a little late coming in. I got stuck in a big old traffic jam. But we're coming at you live from Ashala Yardley's YouTube channel. And today I have the lovely Anita joining me again. And we're going to be looking with her divination tools, which are her oracle cards, and also, of course, the tarot, looking at your questions and perhaps even posing a few of our own. So please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel so that we can continue to bring you more content and look at your questions for these weekly lives. So welcome, Anita.
Thank you so much, Ashala. So great to be here with you again.
Love it. Love
And
it.
and I'm ready to dive in. I see people are starting to comment. And so let's just look over here. And you know what I'm seeing? It's a lot of things around financial.
Okay.
Really, everything seems to be tying into the world stage, but financial pieces. So maybe we could start by looking at, um, well, I'm seeing here something about the petrodollar, and this will affect everybody, of course. Russia and Cuba ships, yes, there's some action there, but what I'm tuning into when the petrodollar is mentioned is the relationship between Russia and China
Mhm.
and how they're switching over um, covertly, not so covertly there, but maybe in North America or the Western world, it's covert somewhat. So
Mhm.
if we could start there, looking at the effects of the petrodollar on global issues, and then see where that takes us along the financial lanes.
Great, great. Yeah, so maybe looking at the effects of the transition away from the petrodollar.
Great.
What sort of timelines? We've looked at lots of timelines over the last 3 or 4 years around knowing this is coming. I mean, we've been knowing it's coming for a really long time. But let's look and see where we're at right now
Hmm.
with it. Just as I opened the cards, I have the Six of Pentacles and the Judgment. So a really big upgrade on every level. And, interesting, I'm getting like the G6, the G8, those countries, you know, establishing this new platform, uh, gold backed. Maybe I'm looking at the really noticing the gold in the literally they're like dollars, those pentacles, and you see that it's a much more balanced reciprocal system with that Six of Pentacles.
And when you
And
say gold backed, let me just weave in because someone was mentioning silver there, that's very much connected. Precious metal backing,
metal
that's
back
all wound like connected. So.
definitely connected. Yeah. So, and when we think about timing, like with those two, the Six of Pentacles could be as soon as 6 weeks or 6 months, but because it's got that big, potent Judgment card beside it with a big major arcana like that beside it, we could be looking at more of a 6-year transition. It's like we want these things to really land in a good way and evolve in a very healthy, synergistic way. The sixes are a lot about everybody wins. We're getting away from this winner and loser. Like, if we're going to win, someone on the other side of the world is going to, be holding the short end of the stick, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this new transition away from the petrodollar, it has to look sustainable. It has to look healthy and reciprocal. It can't just be a we win and you lose kind of system. So, oh yeah, look at that. Two majors. I opened the deck again.
Judgment back.
Judgment pack. Again,
Well,
sun,
yeah,
right? I
yes,
shuffled
twice
and
in a row.
twice in a row. So judgment is the big up leveling. It's the biggest up leveling, um, card in the tarot, right? It's like the big wake up call, go big or go home. This is, so we're going for the long haul, and we're saying if it takes longer than we want, so be it. Okay, now I'm actually going to lay out a
Okay,
little
so while you're getting that spread ready,
you can pull what
let
you
me
pull.
yes, let me say that I also got a 6. 6
Okay,
of Wands or Gabriel in this deck.
okay,
And so if we think of the 6 of Wands energy, that it's showing that a lot of work has gone into this already to get it to this synergistic flow that's happening. And there's it's a time to really start focusing on what is going to come next. And a lot of what's been coming through when I've been working with people is um, indications about the energy of this year. Yes, we're still going through a real change and challenge year, but we are also able to do things we weren't able to do before. And some people call that the energetic veil lifting, or the are being able to see more. So that what's coming back is circling back to things that you've tried before, or what's coming through is this because they may work. Those things might work that were previously blocked and not working.
okay.
So this is really showing how um, we might have been hearing narratives for a while around this, but this year it's actually in motion, and it will be
Mhm.
seen more and more, not just by people aware and awake, but little sprinklings are running through everything mainstream as well. And I also pulled the sun. My
Mm,
goodness. So,
that's
really heading into just this lovely energy that's coming through for us, that we're really arriving at a new level, at new revelations
yeah.
through the energy flow right now. So, mhm.
I love it, Anita. And we're not just making this stuff up, folks. Like, we're longtime readers, and the sun is, when you get the sun in a reading, you're like, okay, everything's going to be all right, right?
Yes.
And it's not, it's not, we're not joking when we say that. Like, it's pretty amazing to see cards like that coming in around finances when we look out and we just feel so much despair and bleak hopelessness, and we're like, are you kidding? How can this turn around and become a sunny thing? Well, I want to say, stay tuned. If I could clone myself and get all the different projects underway that I have, backlogged, I'm just working full time doing readings. So I don't have a lot of time to do other production at the moment. But I have a whole education series on transitioning to new paradigm currencies, new economics, and it's away from all of these systems, the capitalist system, the socialist system, like into what I call like the contributionism system. It's more like an egalitarian model. It's not socialism. It's not centralized power dominant authority, that controls the every little movement of every person. No, it is not that. It's decentralized, small, local initiatives that revitalize regions, revitalize communities, revitalize family, revitalize spirituality, economic growth and health and sustainable growth and like environmental, restoration and regenerative agriculture, all these things. This is what I see and what I've always seen for 40 years now. I've been working and living close to those new paradigm projects, knowing that this is where we're heading as a species. So we don't want to just recreate capitalism. We don't want to just recreate socialism. This is going to be, the guides are saying it's a Aquarian age project, which of course is not going to get off the ground overnight. It's years, not months, not weeks.
And
So
what you're saying, Ashala, you know how we're always looking for those practical pieces of what we can put into motion? You've
mhm,
just summed up beautifully the things that people can be doing. So when we get frustrated and stuck and feel heavy and what can we possibly do, start looking locally. What little projects, what energy ripples are you sending out through
Mhm.
being part of co-ops or some sort of small grassroots movement that can then start connecting up with other grassroots movements? So if you have a strong central space where you live, you might, the next town over, you might start connecting with them over time, but just start with whatever that is that moves you in your heart and get some things into motion, even if it feels so small, because it will grow
Yeah.
or morph, shift into what it
Mhm.
needs to be over time as we go through this energy and this process.
It will. And thank you, Sparkle. Woohoo. I can't wait for that course, Ashala. Me neither. And it's been backlogged with several others. It's just about me having like I said, I work probably about 40 hours a week doing readings, and I need to do that to support myself and my family right now. So it's really hard for me to step away to get a lot of the production done. And I've communicated with my guides over the last couple of years about this, and I keep hearing, you know what, it might be, my style, my approach is pretty. It's pretty new paradigm. It's pretty. I don't want to say futuristic, but it's above the heads of a lot of people who are just waking up right now. So I think to really get motion behind it, even if we have to wait another 6 months or heaven forbid a year for this information to, like, I'm not the only one producing it. If you want a little, sort of preemptive, check it out, look into an example, a great example of these grassroots initiatives is Michael Tellinger's One Small Town movement and the Ubuntu movement from South Africa. And you can Google that. In fact, I'll go on and put a link to his stuff below after we do the live. That's one version. And the good thing about this new paradigm economics is it isn't going to be everybody follows the same model. No, it's going to be dozens, if not even hundreds of these smaller initiatives. And they're what works is going to start to catch on, and it's going to be trendy, and people are going to be like, hey, we're setting up this thing. It's similar to Michael Tellinger's One Small Town, but we're doing it differently because this is what we've got to work with. And these things are going to literally begin to spring up all over the place. And I've got so many examples of those types of initiatives that some of them have been successful. A lot of this stuff has been tried, intentional communities. They've been going for 50, 70, 90 years in some cases, right? So, yeah, there's a lot that's already been explored and experimented with, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's already a lot of amazing systems out there about, as you said, co-ops, collectives, and
Homesteading.
I've got dozens of stories just from my own gathering over the last 20 or 30 years that I've been interested in this. So let's let's just calm ourselves a little bit and know there's some really great stuff coming that it's going to start flourishing as literally a parallel system. And we've been talking about this for ages, right? These parallel systems. So I pulled cards on the transition from the petrodollar to, precious metals backed currencies, which again in itself is only a transitional currency model. So if you can say that, like, okay, what we're working on, it's almost like going from hydroelectric power to free energy. And you can say, well, we're going to transition off grid and set up, micro hydro, small, local plants. We're going to set up solar and wind generation and stuff like that. But those aren't ideal long-term solutions either. Maybe micro hydro, if it's done right, is. But, basically we're moving towards free energy. So we don't want to stop at let's get ourselves all locked into the next best thing and stick there for the next 300 years. Like, no, we want to keep
And
this
for those
moving.
that don't know about free energy, I'm sure a lot of your audience does, but that it's something like Tesla coils you're referring to, or pulling from the ether.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Just wanting to
free
put that.
energy pulling from
Yes.
the ether and different types of technology. Eventually, I don't think we're going to need external technology. I think we're going to learn how to redirect energy ourselves and literally create power just through our minds, just through our intent.
Sam.
Shazam! That would be a little bit dangerous. We got a lot of emotional maturing and inner healing to do as individuals and as a collective before we can be given those kind of power tools, right?
But we're
A
practicing with
two-year-old
them.
a big drill or something, right? It's like no, yeah.
Yeah.
So what I've been shown here, look at this. Well, no
Medicine man.
kidding, right? The devil in the past, meaning we've been chained to this system that is really about power dominance, stealing power from people. We've been in, 8,000 years living in the eighth sphere, which is basically the lockdown. It was an experiment done with humanity's consent to push us into individuation, and then beyond that into basically collaboration as a group, but with an individual awareness and consciousness. That's the next step. So we went from collective hive mind in the Lemurian age, then we've gone through 8,000 years of separate self-identity, pulling ourselves apart. The Indo-European language group with the verb to be, like to be or not to be, individual, which created a huge crisis for humanity of separation and
And
terror.
yet, but yet it's all an illusion. As I remember you teaching this card to me, how loosely they're chained.
Yep.
And so it's the illusion that we can walk away from at this moment or at any moment when you have that realization. And in fact, last night before I went to bed, I had a major download of just that reminder, just shh, like hold on loosely. So we're not holding tightly onto any particular idea or lane, but just hold on loosely, but allow that flow because we're not locked in.
Yeah,
So
you
that
see,
that
I don't know if you
image
can
just
see.
shows.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you can see around their necks are the chains, but they can pull them off over their heads.
Yeah.
But they've grown so accustomed to it, right? There's no shame in this, everybody. And we got to talk about shame. We'll do that another time. But there's no shame in the fact that we've been believed that we're in lockdown and that everything is polarized. And if someone wins, somebody loses, all that black and white, good, bad, good and evil, right, wrong, all that stuff, we're capable of so much more integrated intelligence and awareness and heart-centered action. And that's what we're regrowing in our beings now. So we went from hive mind, like almost like animal consciousness, and then we evolved into this separation through a lot of trauma and struggle. And the next epoch is we come back together collaborating as groups at the age of Aquarius, but we retain our individuality. So how cool is that? I mean, and all the systems that we create will be based on that collaboration, contributionism, egalitarian, collective working together for the betterment of the whole, but not from a centralized power dominant model like like socialism or communism is. It's like it's got that concept. They use that concept of everybody's equal, but they enforce it with a centralized power dominant model with military, and it's like, really, everybody's equal, but we don't have a choice of what we do. That doesn't feel very equal, right? So and people get really confused. I've heard people say, oh, that Michael Tellinger, he's a communist. It's like, no, he's not a communist. Listen, you got to go a little deeper, folks. You got to go a little deeper, look a little deeper into this stuff. It's called contributionism, which is free will choice. No one is pushing you to do anything. No, there's no law that says you have to do this or you get your social credit points deducted. No, no, no. It's all free will based.
And you're talking about this process of layers, um, sort of coming off of us or being peeled back as we see and feel things in new ways. When you're talking about people potentially reacting to someone, oh, communist, or that judgment that we bring. You brought the judgment cart forward twice today, back to back, and
Right.
it's part of the unraveling, right? It's our own judgments that we're bringing to everything. If we can step back and look with new eyes again, allow ourselves to look with new eyes
Yeah.
and see what else we can see and realize just exactly what you're saying there, that free will piece. Where do we feel we connect and join and flow with, and where do we not?
Yes, and I realize that this is a big, that seems like a massive stretch. Like, okay, but how do I pay my bills this month? How do I, as someone was asking about unions, what's going to happen to the unions?
Yes.
What's going to happen to the freedom, the rights of Canadians? So yes, it is. It's almost like we're going from these massive realities of all these people in the big stew pot together. How do we get out? But we're looking for a massive solution. Everybody's going, well, what's going to happen to the petrodollar? What's going to happen to the unions? What's going to happen to have the White House got everything sewn up? And how's the transition going to look to our new government? And it's like, okay, if we want to just go back into a similar system and have to redo all this again 50 years from now, keep going that way. And I'm not trying to shame you into. I want you to see that I'm inviting you to consider that you think, well, okay, so what? I get involved in a little cooperative board here in my local area around sustainable food production. Big deal. How's that going to change all these things? Well, you alone will not, but hundreds of thousands of us doing that will. And that is what, in order to evolve into this new model, it is decentralized. The Aquarian age is decentralized power. It isn't the unions. It isn't the petrodollar. It isn't Bitcoin. It isn't these big systems, government systems. It's small scale, regional, local initiatives. It's going back to the simple realities of every region is different. Every community is different. Every grouping of people is different. And we have so much to draw on. We have like data, like never have we had access to so much like education, data, information on how to create these systems. It's mind-boggling, really. So here we are in the center. Jump for joy, because liberation is already underway. We are already in the transition. We are already so there's two ways of speaking about this. You could say, in a way, you could say the White Hats have already done their job. The new systems are in place. It's going to be a pretty easy transition. Or you could say, we are so deep in now to the real crux of what's going to change this permanently. There's no pulling out from this journey now. We are in, and we're in. This is the spiritual warrior. We are in for the long haul to get it right. And it doesn't really, in a way, if you can take a breath and go, it's almost like it doesn't really matter what the unions do. It doesn't matter what the real estate market does. It doesn't matter what gold and silver does. We are going to do this a new way. And it does start with you and what you have around you. And, like I said, a couple 100,000 or a few 100,000 of us living in a new way, pulling ourselves gradually away from this power dominant political military industrial complex banking system, one little step at a time. And that is the revolution, folks. That's it. So the financial revolution is already, the fact that we can even talk about this and that you all know what I'm talking about It's a miracle. Like
Mm.
we've won.
Yes.
We won. It's like there's
Mhm.
the sun, right? It's like, okay, the options are in front of us, and we're wise enough to see them, and we're ready to roll up our sleeves and get busy. It's like we won.
And yes, and for those here already in the know, or we're all building our knowledge still, realize that you are able to hear and see these things because it's an inside job and you've done some inner work to get you to the point where you're tuned in this way. So good job, everyone.
Good job. Good
Yeah,
job. We are at 40 people tuned in right now. So I just
awesome.
want to open my arms and my heart wide to all of you and say welcome. And this is turning point moments, you know. The guides, and when I say the guides, what I mean is all of our guides that are here present right now, mostly all of yours. uh, they're saying, like, we used to have these turning point moments, I don't know, maybe once a year or once every 5 or 10, if we go back, a couple hundred years for our forefathers and mothers. They'd have like one of these revelatory moments that in a decade. We're having them literally 3 and 4 in a day
Mhm,
right now.
mhm,
Like, can you feel that? We are literally up leveling, up leveling, up leveling. And you can say, oh, but things look worse on the outside than they did before. Well, it's just like a healing crisis.
mm.
When it's time to clean house, I mean, what does your house look like if you haven't cleaned for a few years and you pull everything out and start sorting all the boxes and, pulling all the dust out of the corners and heaven knows what shows
Mhm.
up, right? The
Yeah,
mice
some of it's
bubbling,
messy. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's
messy, challenging.
messy, challenging, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I didn't believe I've been living with this around me all this time, and like how gross is this, or what have I, like, and there's those moments where you're overwhelmed and you're just like, I can't, I'll never get through this. But the truth is, we've been living in it all the way along. It was just we were the illusion, we had a curtain across all the cupboards that needed sorting, and we were in the illusion that everything was clear. Now we see what we've been living in.
Mhm.
And the beautiful thing is we see each other across the hall,
Hmm.
and we've all got our gloves on, we've all got our sleeves rolled up, we're all in there scouring and working and cleansing and clearing together. And that, okay, that is the win right there.
Well,
And
and
it
clearing the emotions, with
the
cups, they're
emotion.
so allowing that to flow because that can be what hangs us up whenever we get to work and we're like, oh, we get frozen and overwhelmed and just pushing through those emotions that allow it to flow and just keep going with it. It's like if you have to do it through sobbing, tears, a little raging at home, as you're doing your own inner work, that clear, and just allowing and
Clear.
accepting and then getting to that next level, feeling like a after a heavy rain, just that the sun comes back out, the sun comes back out, and we're just like in ease and in grace and in love and clarity again. Mhm.
And I feel that people
Mhm.
kind of walk away sometimes from my shows and my lives and even my readings and go, okay, I didn't really get an answer to my question.
I
Uh,
know what you mean. Yeah.
I want to say that if you feel something,
Mhm.
if you felt something, maybe the change is not going to come through your mind. It's going to come through your feelings. And if you just had a feeling, even a glimpse of a feeling of, wait a minute, that feels right. Something, I don't know what she said, but something in there felt right.
Yes.
Right. And don't worry about it. You don't even have to grab a hold of it. You don't have to say, what was that thing? I want more of whatever that was that felt right. Don't worry. Don't
Yes.
worry. Keep going, because go by feel. Go by feel, and it's like, okay, um, if it feels right, we're going to just edge our way towards it. And the biggest, yeah, the answer resonates later. Thank you, Angela. It's often really frustrating for me too when I tune in with people's guides and they ask questions and we get more questions.
Mhm.
We get
Mhm.
we the answer comes as more questions, but it's really about opening up the imagination, which I call the imagination, where magic happens, and opening the heart to feel into greater versions of what's possible. And then we go back and look at that little question, not a little question, by the way. I'm not trying to minimize the real distress, but your very real questions about the petrodollar, about Russia and China, about like gold and silver and the prices. And I will pull, by the way, something on silver going down. And those very real questions, it's like we can almost in a way say we're going to take the best intel that our heart feels is good for the next step. This is another thing I've noticed, I'm sure you've noticed, Anita, in your readings, is we often get presented maybe the next stepping stone or two, but when you want the full answer, how is it going to look? What I want to see all the way to the other side. I want the guarantee that we're going to, if I take this stepping stone, we're going to get to the other side. And this is not the time for that kind of strategy, because we are evolving so quickly, and it's going to require new systems that aren't even fully in place yet. So for us to be able to see our way across and know, if I take a step on this, if I listen to a Shala and step on that first stone, what if there isn't stones to get me across? Well, it might not be a straight line, folks. It might be like a wiggle waggle line. But yeah,
well, and
we will get across.
We will. And what we're doing all the time is moving the energy, shifting the energy. And so, no matter what, even if we sat here in silence, which is just a different tool, which we could call meditation, and we put words to things, but what we're always putting words to is energy. So, not only is it the energy that comes forth as we choose words to speak, but it's being in flow and interpreting energy and putting it into words. So it's so much about the connection and our intentions and holding that peaceful, calm, love space in our hearts. And that is where the power comes from. And ideally, our own intuitive answers, connecting with the energy that's been brought for us, and that we arrive at answers on our own. And those are the most powerful. So it might be the exact answer that Ashala has just put forward, or I might in a reading, but it's only when your energy resonates with it that it becomes real for you. So we're collaborating, we're bringing energy together, we're looking at world events. At the same time, we're always working on our own inner self, and doing the work together, scrubbing the energy, as I like to call it too, right? We're really working it, and we're busy with it right now. And so we can put that intention forward to enjoy the journey as well, even when it's challenging, and even when it's like, I don't know if I really understood that answer. That's okay. Allow it to float the mystery a bit with a little bit of joy, and allow that answer to come through, whether it's in your sleep or your meditation, or when you're completely like doing dishes or going for a walk, something where you're not necessarily mind focused. Because I love that point you brought up, Ashala. It's only part of it is the mind journey. So when we go, aha, yeah, that feels great to us, but it's only a small fraction of the whole experience of what we're doing here on Earth.
Yes. And, the mind is the thing that is the easiest to trick, right? This
The
is the
hardest to
trick.
unravel when we get something, stuck in our head.
Yep. So if we, and I think we've really got the medicine of this in the last couple of years, when we see the intel on all the back channels just going all different directions, sideways, and we go, oh my gosh, like, how do I know what to believe? And okay, like, I see the evidence of some of what's being brought forward as, intel, and yet it's so convoluted. There's no way anybody's mind can sort it all out. And then we freeze, right? We're like, oh my gosh, I got brain freeze. Literally, I can't think clearly because there's too many different conflicting narratives all coming at me. Well, that's the limitation of the brain. And that is why the dark force cabal controllers have used brain, like, what is it called? Like brainwashing, mind manipulation.
MK Ultra. Yeah.
Totally. It is the easiest thing to mess with is the brain, the easiest. And the thing that is almost impossible to mess with is our emotions. If we really get good in our hearts, inside of ourselves, which is healing your own trauma. We all have bucket loads of it. Nobody's immune. No one on planet Earth right now is immune, trauma free. It's not just your family, it's everybody, right?
Mhm.
We all have violations. We all have pedophiles and have had, sexual violations in our lifetimes, previous lifetimes. Ancestors have had it. No one is immune on this planet because this is what this journey has been about. It's been about pulling us apart, to our core and really having us learn what we're made of at the center of our being that can't be tampered with. So, this is the healing, the coming back together as a whole being. And it's the emotional work. It's an emotional war we're in now. I've been saying it. We were in an information war, then we were in a spiritual war. And now we're in an emotional war. And this is the time to get good in yourself. So, how is that going to help the petrodollar? I don't want to say cliche, trust me, trust yourself, trust your higher self,
Mhm.
trust, listen in your heart and go, what is my heart telling me? Like, yeah, it's afraid. What's under the fear? What's the thing that keeps you getting up in the morning? It keeps you coming back to the computer to try to get answers. That part of you, listen to that part of you. It's going to help you. It's going to show you what you're ready to heal and let go of, what you're ready to scour out in your own inner world, because we've all got it. I say to people, I've got right now 2 therapists and 3 readers that I'm working with. It's like, and I'm probably keeping them pretty busy because I got a lot of work I'm working through.
Mm.
So it's, it's knowing yourself and caring about it at that level. I want you to pull a couple of oracle cards on what we've just been talking about, Anita, and then we'll go on to look at silver and a couple of other questions.
Mhm. Okay, so part of this process, what's coming through right now is healing energy.
Mhm.
And imagine how much has to be healed when we have multi generational oppression that is coming forth, and it's stored in all of our DNA. So
Mhm.
this is something that is um, that ripples through us at any given time, and yet it's something that we have personal journeys with, or our ancestral lineage. But yet, then there's this world aspect of it, like you were just acknowledging, everyone having trauma, everyone experiencing some oppression pieces. So we're raising the energy together while doing our own personal inner work, and
Mhm.
the healing energy is what came forth. And the monetary system is super important um, to heal, because
Mhm.
that was a major tool, or still is used as a major tool of oppression. Of just imagine, and it used to be my one of my favorite things to do as a kid when I'd get together with my friends and we go, what would I do with $1 million? And I still bring it up when I'm, maybe I haven't alive already, but also when I'm reading with people. It's like, how can you allow that opening to that joy of possibility? And we're healing that because we're actually born naturally to that. We have that. That's why children are so amazing with their, and you were just acknowledging imagination as well, Ashala, that we have that innately within us, and then it gets shut down. So
Mhm.
as we're going through all of these transitions, every question, we can weave it back together because it's all the tools of control through the finances. Just imagine how each day would look different for all of us if we weren't going, oh, yeah, but I have to do this. Even Ashala acknowledging that you have these courses that are ready and that information would burst forth, but you're full with readings. And that's a very, as we've talked about before, it is an important step of what we're in now, where people helping people gather their own energy so each of us become the strength for others around us and in our community. So it is really important that we are doing this supportive work for one another, but moving out so we can do more of our passion projects as well. And the healing energy will allow that. So we're not focusing on having to pay rent and bills. We're more in our own heart and we have spiritual support. Oop, that's so scary.
Oh, that looks
Spirit
beautiful. What's it called?
spiritual support, like,
Oh,
right, literally. So, and you were saying they, the guides, and you were already acknowledging how it's all of our energy coming together, everyone's higher self aspect, which is how we even find this alignment, whether you're live or you're watching a replay. It's energy alignment.
it's energy.
And at the same time, what came up was it's interesting is personal boundaries. So that and this one literally says personal boundaries. Oh,
Yeah, that way. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And this is in the chakra card. So this is the solar plexus. And I love that this came in because it's our will to take action. And we're going to have boundaries around it when other people don't share our vision of what that looks like. And that's okay. We're not in this uh, we've been shown this warring energy of that we have to butt heads with people, and that is very purposefully what we've been put in. It was never a matter of winning a war or anything. It was no, keep people in conflict, keep people
Oh,
divided. So it
right.
it never mattered who was going to win or lose
No.
it by the
Keep,
controllers, because they're just like, get everyone upset. So if we
yep.
can just
And
be
and we know they fed on the fear and
on the
the
loosh, yeah, the loosh energy, right? So we
totally.
know, so
I think,
for us,
feed. Like, I mean, that
yeah.
those frequency entities are in the universe everywhere. Like,
Mhm.
it's not just here on planet Earth. They are all over the place. And they are like a form of parasite.
Mm.
And you can say,
And
well,
opportunists.
opportunity.
They see an opening, they see people who are not mindful of their energy because of the way we've been programmed for years, then it's like, "Oh, that's a perfect opportunity. Let's go and feed."
And, if we can imagine, I know it's hard. I know this is the hardest thing of all, is to imagine that there could be a good reason for this to happen. I mean, what do parasites do? Why are they even on? Why did the universe create parasites in the first place? Why? Well, they come in and they feed off the garbage that needs to be basically consumed to let something new grow. So there's something in our evolution that needed to be pruned away. And we needed to come down to this isolationist, individualist, pared down to nothingness to find a deeper version of ourselves. We had to, and so it's like they've like been those parasites that eat all the gunk off you, right? It's like, and it's not nice. It's gross and it's painful and it's scary and it's not a nice thing. But what we will be left with and how we will be able to rebirth like fresh beings out of this, we will be in a way grateful to them for having done a job that needed to get done so that we could, I think people get stuck in, we were perfect before and now they've messed with us and we're damaged goods. And it's not a either or. That's again that polarized
Dichotomy, yeah.
dichotomy. If you see this as a continuing line and there's these highs and lows like this, it's like we needed to go through something so that we could grow. The devil card in the tarot is the number 15. It is the number of the 1 and the 5. So the ego, the 1 is the individual, the ego, and the 5 is chaos and growth. So the ego needed to go through this chaotic, going through the washing machine and the wringer in order to come out clean, in order to come out like beyond what we were before. We continue to evolve towards basically godliness. And this energy, as much as we want, when we go into, I'm so angry, I feel victimized, these are perpetrators, they don't deserve to live, they need to be strung up from the tallest tree. We're down in their frequency. We're in that same frequency that they're in. So the revolution is in a different frequency band, and it is loving.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And authentic,
and
because yeah, for us to be in true loving balanced energy, we're in integrity, we have clarity, and we're authentically ourselves. That's like
mm,
our eternal being, our soul is that
yes.
authenticity that runs through us, and then it's we decide to move our vessel and make choices that then are, what we create moving forward once we've really aligned with our true authentic self. That
Mm,
becomes the action.
it does. It does. We have a little bit of time left. There's something about weather changes and also about underground trains. I said I would pull on silver. I'm going to do that quickly.
Mhm. We could do a few
Anita, would
rapid
you?
through.
Yeah, yeah. Would you pull on the weather?
Yes.
It's a question about, will the weather change be the same all around the world, comfortable and warm? That's an interesting question.
Mm. Well, as soon as you said that, I will start by saying, um, you've read the question. It reminds me that already when you were talking, Ashala, the movie Zootopia came up in my mind,
Mm,
um, because of the different environments that were created. And then there was like a rapid train that could go in between all of the different environments. So it feels like right away, it's like, well, we might still want to have snowy zones where we can go skiing for those that enjoy or snowshoeing and
mm,
embrace that weather, but we might not live there. We may or may not live there. So right away, what I would say is choice. Oh, and I pulled the world card, which to
yeah,
me is like, you know, n- you choose where do you want to be in the world. You want to you
right.
choose which zone. There may be a lot more that is in alignment with our what is beneficial for us, which is very much a little bit of a warmer climate. But again, we have after hundreds of years, thousands of years, we have people who have adapted, and so it
Mhm.
feels like yes, a balance, but there will be choice and an ease about moving through, whether that's rapid transit, whether that's portals that will travel, all the technology we've seen in sci-fi coming to fruition that we'll be able to use.
Yes, I love that. Thank you for that. What a great answer, Anita. And it kind of ties in with the underground trains. Now, 2024, I'm not sure about that. What are you getting on that? Like, is it
About
going to be that
underground
fast?
trains
Yeah,
timeline?
yeah.
I feel like they're already there, but are we gonna use the old dark system and make it good? I feel like there's a lot of energy that needs to be cleared there.
Yeah.
Okay, and I pulled like there's a better way. Yeah. So that's
Mm,
it's transition. So it's like it's there, but right away what they showed me the readiness isn't there. And unfortunately, that's that same thing. Whether we're talking anything, financial system, that slow roll of we want it now, but it's like we're still building the vessels to be able to hold the energy. We're working our way to crystalline beings. We're working all the different language we could use around it that we've been talking about. These are the things that are in process. So there, but not ready.
mhm.
Yeah.
There, but not ready. And there may be alternatives that are even better. So, how, yeah, like, are we,
I would say
I,
portals first
yeah,
because if we look at disclosure around FBI, CIA, that's just years. I remember decades ago hearing about this man talking about being a child with his father who was working as some sort of three-letter agency agent, CIA or something, and
Mhm.
he was taken one day into a room, let's say in Baltimore, and they went through a door and they were in California, something like that,
Mhm.
where we know those things can be used for good.
Mhm.
And I mean, that in that case, he didn't discuss that, and I can't remember the name of this man at this time, but he didn't discuss any bad that he was aware of, but he talked more about the possibilities of what's already existing. So if that was already happening then, when we have that into good use, it's more like maybe we eventually will have our own portals and energetic, like you were saying earlier, Ashala, how it's all within us, whether
Mhm.
it's like Shazam blast energy that but we learn how to,
Yeah.
modulate it so it's not dangerous. Same thing with portals. In the meantime, it might be like going to a portal train station, which takes us to another portal train station, which they show in Marvel movies.
Yeah.
The Doctor Strange has portals in the places where he works that they step through to go to different parts of the world,
Yeah.
basically showing you, that's again disclosure, showing you, and
Mhm.
that more and more of that. And that might be way more efficient than underground trains. But
That's kind of what I'm getting
anyway,
to.
yeah.
And again, it's a readiness on so many levels, and
Mhm.
also a cleanliness is what I'm hearing, because
Mm,
we really don't want we really don't want those creepy old hands on the wheel anymore when we're working with these new technologies. We want it to be really clear.
mhm.
And interesting, for some reason, I'm being reminded, I do work to some extent with people in Australia and the Aboriginal population there. And I know even in their most recent historical narrative, they have stories and evidence in living memory of some of their ancestors where people could teleport. It's called teleportation,
Mm,
and they could literally go from one place to another. And they had that spiritual technology still in place right up until like maybe 100 years ago. Not all of them, but certain rare individuals that still had retained that could affect teleportation. And so it's in and it is in some Native American mythologies, and even strange stories where people have gone in a door and come out somewhere else. And they did this knowingly. This, like, I find it just a little bit more disconcerting to hear stories about people who literally just disappeared, and it wasn't consensual. They weren't looking to do something, and they weren't confident in their ability to do that. I'm not interested in opening up portals and wormholes on this planet for people to non-consensually get pulled in. No,
mm.
like, that's not happening on my watch. Sorry. No. So let's not rush this, because we're dabbling with energies that are beautiful. They're our birthright, but in the wrong hands, it's too much too fast, and we need to get healed before we start working with this stuff again. So our ancient ancestors some of them had the ability to do this even in living memory.
Mhm.
And we will have this again, and it will be done in a good way. It'll be done in a consensual, integral way. And, that's what I'm holding space for and protecting around. So there
Yeah.
is something about the information not coming through too quickly, us not getting this technology in our hands too quickly.
And also what we keep talking about, preparing the vessel energetically, that alignment. When you're talking about Australian Indigenous people, what I've studied there is that our perspective of time as well. So there have dream time, which is a time energetically that's very, by interpreting the words of it, the explanations of it, it's working with magical energy, imaginative energy, but they also have now time, which is all time. So that's
Mhm.
working with the power of now, that it's in every moment, this is all that there is. But then for them, it's all things exist at once. So all ancestors are currently present and helping us. and actively with us, whether we see them or not, because it
Mhm.
is all at once. This is the energy we're working.
And the reason we can't perceive that and don't feel safe and comfortable in it, like again, I just keep hearing, you know, let's work on safety and comfort in the existing paradigm,
Mm,
right? Before we add in a bunch more wild, outrageous technology, let's start by
mm,
feeling safe and comfortable with what we got going on in
mm,
3D right now. It's like, because to me, this revolution is happening where people feel safe, they feel comfortable, they feel autonomous and sovereign, consensual about their choices. Nothing is being done to them without their permission,
mm,
and it's like that is how we're moving forward. So again, I feel very fiercely protective that this is the agency that we're moving forward with. And it's kind of in a way putting the onus back on all of you. How do
mm.
you get there? You do the inner work now. I know it seems boring. Okay, I'm going to go to a therapist. Whippy do, right? Like, how's that going to help? Portal opening and trains going from here to there, and the Earth's weather stabilizing. Like, oh, great! I solved my upset relationship with my ex, but who cares, right? Well, believe it. The
Mhm.
butterfly effect.
Mhm, and it's not we want so desperately to see it to believe it, but we're working on our own belief systems so that we can see what it exists in all now time.
Yes, because you could possibly see the illusionary trick version of it with closed heart and relatively closed mind, but you're not going to be able to really get the full healthy version of these things until you've done your work. And it seems so trivial, but believe me, it is not trivial. It is the most important thing. And it is the biggest gift you can give to yourself, your family, humanity, and the planet is to do this now. Yeah, emotion code is very powerful. People can do that for themselves. You don't have to spend huge amounts of money. There are, phenomenal resources available online now. Get curious about some of this stuff. And, if you're feeling overwhelmed, just say, okay, whatever's out there, the narrative that's going, if I can't do something about it today that's positive and constructive, I'm going to turn my attention to somewhere, it's like cleaning out the house, right? If you got several years of stuff in every room and every corner, start where you can get a lot accomplished and save that other stuff for later when we're all there together in that room and we can all work on it
Mhm.
together. But it really feels like this is the time of the individual. Okay, we're
Okay,
getting
what'd you pull on? Was that
hour,
silver?
that hour here, and I pulled on silver. So we got 10 of wands and the sun.
The
So the
sun.
question was, is it still, with all that's going on in Russia, with the ships and all that, are we still going to see silver drop mid-June? I feel like yes. What do you think, Anita? Like what? We're
That
close to mid-June.
that that you're feeling that the heavy load, the burden there of what's ahead as far as the price of silver. Is what you're
Well, some people have been wanting to know, is silver going to drop and then rise?
hmm.
Um,
Interesting. I got Ace of Pentacles for this. So that lucky day kind of
lucky day.
feeling. New beginning, new foundational systems coming into place. Um, but we're in June, and if we're talking about drops anytime, it's
10
to,
days.
what
10
I
days.
feel it's yeah, well, I'm from what you've pulled, there's that it feels like that work energy of like, oh, there might be a little bit of disappointment before we can complete the work. Uh, what I'm getting is almost like anything's possible, and that's not quite written. So it's like one of those many narratives you were addressing earlier, how we had all these narratives coming at us all the time, and it's our inner discernment that needs to find, as much as we want, oh yeah, but I want a concrete answer about this now. There's so many things, and from how I understand, like white hat plans are very complex and not in concrete at all. It's more like there's certain events that need to occur along the way, but it's actually, it has to be very agile and adaptive.
Mhm.
It's not about, no, it's just like for our own lives. It's when we take those first couple next steps and then see where the path takes us. We hold a vision for where we're going, but it's we're in this flexible mode, ready to, move as needed.
Well, so I love what Maria said. She said, I see the wand card as the ability to collect more silver. Look at, he's grabbing it.
Beautiful.
So that's kind of what I was feeling, is that
Yeah.
we're going to see maybe about a 10-day drop. Maybe it's in the next 10 days, or maybe it's for 10 days starting around now. And then it's going to go back up. So it is an opportunity to collect silver at this temporary drop. And that's kind of what I was getting as well, is that, and along with this drop, the whole financial system does a big whoop, right? Like that's kind of what I've gotten. And it's been predicted on a lot of the channels. And, I feel like we're going to go through this like a bit of a drop, and then, but look at it
But then
bouncing
the sun
back,
comes out. Yes.
right?
In
So,
amazing ways.
so that could be part of what we've been hearing about for years, the reset. I don't like to just talk in concrete ways about that, because exactly what Anita said, I've got all the way along. This is so much more complex than a switch. Our simple way of looking at things, we want to, okay, they put the switch down and then they flipped it back on and everything's great. It's like, no, it's not quite like that. It's a bit more complicated than that, but we're going to see some reverberating ripples along the way that I've never seen a big crash. All the years, if you've been watching me for the last 4 years, I've always said the old system is like a train that's sputtering and eventually just comes to a halt. And by that time, we already have all kinds of roads on either side of it, underground trains, teleportation. It's okay.
And I pulled the wheel, and so that's like everything's possible, right? The wheel of fortune, it's that it's new beginnings, and really change that brings about happiness,
Yeah.
change that brings about, but what we energetically are focusing on. And if we hold that higher vibration, oh, I see you have
Did you see
something with
that?
the
I
sun.
literally went to pick the sun up, and the
Rebirth.
cards jump around every once in a while. Like, you saw that, folks. It was like a magic trick or something. I swear,
Yes.
all I did was reach down to pick up. I'm not even watching my hands. I'm looking in the screen at my hand. It's like, well, that was weird. And the death card popped out from under the sun. So the transition. This summer in the Northern Hemisphere, the summertime, it's going to really, we're having, oh yeah, look what's underneath that, 10 of
Oh, wow.
so really big transformation here. It might take a year to a year and a half to fully finish this transit, but there's like, yeah, August, June, July, August. I feel like gold and silver are starting to really rise at that point. So like later June into July, and by August, really rising.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I was just trying to do a quick glance through as we finish up here. If we didn't quite directly address your questions, check in with yourself to see what threads of energy might have connected for you regarding those things. And I see the question from Cass about union associations, and then we had Karen asking about US, and is always focused on in Canada what's happening. And I just feel like there's a lot of the practical steps that we're walking through that are um, again, it comes back to our own inner work. As much as we want to know these answers and what's going to happen, union associations is going to be along with so many other things. It's going to fade out in importance because we won't need. They came in as protectors who were really always bought out. So there was no service. It was part of us being divided and that was just other mafiosa deals of getting paid out. So it serves a purpose, we think, but it's not necessary. So in ultimately where we're moving. So
Ultimately.
yeah. So
And it was like there was some really good, we learned a lot about the power of people coming together to care for each other's needs collectively. I mean, even all the social welfare programs and stuff, like we've learned a lot about miracles that can happen when people care about each other and work together. And that's going to serve us in the transition. But when those models of caring about each other are ultimately controlled by a top-down power dominant system, it's always going to corrupt it. And power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So we're moving away from that power dominant model, and that requires decentralization. It requires people getting back into smaller group consciousness and also into the spirit of sharing, of gifting, of contributionism. So it's a big leap for us. And I don't think it's going to happen super fast, but I can see where we're going. And it might even not come in our time, but I've been saying to people all the way along, I lived in a really special little bubble of time in a beautiful place here in Canada that was a rare little moment. And it was like 5D, and it was based on egalitarian contributionism. It didn't last because, it was pre 9/11. And when that hit, all what broke loose. But I know that it's possible to live in that 5D frequency, live in a beautiful sort of collaborative, contributionism type of reality, parallel to the system that's running away with itself, and you're happy as a lark over here. So it is totally doable, and we're going to be doing that. Those of you that have the initiative to take on that role of stepping away gradually from the dominant system that's becoming less and less dominant, you're going to have the opportunity to live in a rare way at this incredible turning point. So more power to all of you to do that.
Beautiful. And I just wanted to do a few cards that I pulled, and I'm going to do them quickly with the intention that it was addressing anything collectively here in wrapping things up. And Lovely got 10 of Michael in this deck, but 10 of Swords, completions, ending, right? This is like an ending of the mental game. It's feeling like that. And then I got what you also pulled, 10 of Pentacles, Ariel in this deck. So that was exposed on the table, almost like revealed when you lifted up those other cards. So in agreement with that. And then King of Cups, or Raphael in this deck, but this feels like the trusting your emotions, trusting your intuitive hits building. So those three together for the intention to address all the questions together, and especially anything that someone was still wondering about.
Wow. Thank you, Anita. And please, everyone, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And also, please check out how to book a session with Anita. She is, we're still got, what do we have? Another little bit of time before the end of our sale, another couple of weeks before the sale. So you can receive 25% off a reading with Anita. If you pay for that reading before the end of June, you can schedule it anytime in the upcoming weeks and months. And I highly recommend. Anita is one of my go-to people that I love to receive guidance and support from when I get into my, little pretzel knots and corners of my reality. And we all could use that support. And I like to tell people, this is a way that you can invest in our collective future, is taking the time to care about your own soul's growth. And when we get a reading with someone, it is probably one of the most rare moments in time that we literally stop everything and hold space for our soul to emerge and speak what its needs are, where it's at, what it would like to work with, how to best support its evolution. Where else do we get that? There's virtually nowhere else we get that. So I invite
And it's
you
been,
to,
yeah,
yeah,
thank
go ahead.
you. It's just been so amazing to meet some of you and have sessions. And I'm just so grateful for everyone who joins here and who has been booking, because it's um, reciprocal energy. It's so beautiful. I love this work for that. I love helping people and supporting them. But we are collaborative energy that flows when we connect like that. So thank
Yeah,
you all.
totally.
Thank you,
And
Ashala.
thank you, Anita. The last thing I want to say before we go is that I heard the guide saying, we have this idea, if we think of finances and, well, really currency as a current like water, and we're being told, oh, it's going to dry up, right? There's no more currency, or this currency is no longer drinkable, right? You can't use it, or that currency. But it's like, it literally pours from the sky. Like currency is like water is everywhere. It's on the
Yeah,
ground. It's
yeah.
on the ground. It comes from the sky. It's in every river, every puddle, every creek, every ocean, it's not
And
drinkable.
everything's energy, and that's an energy current as well.
Yeah.
So everything, it's
So it's
flowing.
the idea that, I guess if you lived in a smart city and you were locked in and they shut the taps off, you would believe that there's no more water on the planet. But, this is the reality. There is. There is. And it's the same with currency of exchange. I remember once having this thought. This was about 15 years ago now. And I was really where a lot of you are. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so afraid of what's going to happen. And we were talking back then about the crashes and this and that and the petrodollar and all of the stuff. And I remember I suddenly had this thought come over me. It was like, okay, but what if everybody just got up and went to work anyway? Like, what if we all just said, okay, I'm not going to get paid, but I'm not going to stop. The truck driver's still going to drive the car, and the oil refinery guy's still going to produce the oil, and this is going to still do that, and we're going to bake the bread and look after the kids and do that and fix the highways and do that. It's like we all just kept going, right? And like the only thing that would stop would be the banks. And I kind of went, okay, that is a trip, man. That is such a trip to think that way. Like, I was like, what on earth? Like, are we working for money, or are we working to keep this beautiful experiment of life on earth going? And if we all just keep doing what we're doing, it's going to keep going. So think
That's
about
like
that
the
for a minute.
punchline of the movie Free Guy, what you just said right there. That's just summed up. For those
Yeah.
that haven't seen it, it's like that's Free
Yeah.
Guy. It's entertaining, lighthearted, but also shows you, the
Yeah.
thing.
It's like, so, surely if that is the bottom line, we can start making some agreements, not compromises. I just had a great chat with my friend about the difference between agreements and compromises. We feel compromised when we think that we've gone ahead and done things that were not in our best interest, but we got either pressured, or we felt like we had no choice, or we felt obligated. But if you look at all the things we do as agreements, then you can start to say, what am I agreeing to and why? And how do I want to change? Little incremental changes to those agreements is how we're going to change this whole big system, because we don't need to compromise anymore. That's old. That's part of that 8 sphere artificial reality trick that's been played on our brains. Yeah. Awesome, everybody. This has been super potent. We went over a little bit. I guess I'm on fire today.
You are. That nature energy you brought in from camping.
No, I was out in the woods for like 48 hours and look what happened. Good heavens. Blessings to all of you. Have a beautiful week. We'll see you. Anita, you're joining me here again next week for the
I sure am.
awesome.
Yeah.
So bring your questions and we look forward to sharing with you then. Have an awesome week and